So excited to be back on with you guys for another day of Skills Not Pills. This is our host, Carrie Hummingbird. Got to turn my lights on. Now you can actually see me. And we concluded our first month of Skills Not Pills movement, 30 days, 30 extras, 30 skills. And now we're moving on into June. And we'll continue these live chats Tuesdays and Fridays generally at noon. But you can always check the events page to see what's happening that particular week on Skills Not Pills. We have lots of experts coming on to join us for these talks. And I'm really excited today to have Sondra Kornblatt with us. Welcome, Sondra.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
So, Sondra, you teach people about how to renew during restless nights. How do you counter insomnia? And you've actually developed the Restful Insomnia program for helping people deal with this chronic insomnia. And, not being able to sleep is definitely damaging to your productivity and your life and your health and everything else. So tell us a little bit about how you got into that work that you're doing and more about you as well.
Well, I had a long chronic bout of insomnia about, maybe 15 years ago. And so that's how this program got developed. I tried everything I could. I was up 3, 4, 5 nights out of the week in the middle of the night. I would fall asleep fine and then wake up and it would feel like it was 10 a.m. instead of 3 a.m. I tried all the things I could. I was sensitive to medications, but I tried magnesium, melatonin, exercise, not exercising, having something to eat before I went to bed that had tryptophan in it, not eating after 8 o'clock, and nothing worked. My days were exhausted. I was cranky. I was really frustrated. I had 2 young kids at the time, and I was not the best mother. Every night I would just try to sleep and nothing worked. And the revelation about how to change my nights actually happened during the day. I was pushing my daughter in a stroller and I realized, let me back up a minute. I'm really aficionado of personal growth. And so at that time I was doing classes, reading books, but I had no time to follow up. So I was pushing my daughter in the stroller, thinking about how I wish I had more time to, do some of the things that people had suggested. And I realized I had time in the middle of the night. So that night I started to, instead of chasing after sleep, doing things like tapping into my body, doing chakra work, doing energy pieces, practicing a little meditation. Instead of rambling on about how frustrated I would feel the tension in my body. And I was amazed to find that moved me into deep rest. And deep rest, I found, made me more excited, more energized the next day. And I spent the rest of that long bout of insomnia figuring out what the obstacles are to rest and how to move through. And that's the basis of the program.
So tell us some of the insights that you've realized about insomnia. Like what triggers insomnia? What makes that happen? Have you identified some factors for that?
There are so many factors. Insomnia is a huge problem in the U.S., and it can range from anything from how on we always are and thinking that we're just going to turn off. The chase for sleep creates a lot of insomnia. People don't really know what to do when they can't sleep. They feel boxed into a corner with either suffering or getting up or taking medicine. So people don't really know how to turn off, how to rest. How to create that bridge. Lights, the amount of blue lights and even technology just keeps our mind going all the time. So we don't really tap into our bodies for anything other than exercise and carrying our brains around. So there's, and the foods we eat, there's tons of reasons.
Endless list of things, yeah. Right?
Yep, there are. And it's all frustrating, I know.
Well, yeah, because if you wake up at 4 a.m. with thoughts on your mind, now that happens to me occasionally. Like I'll wake up during the night sometimes. And I think we were talking about it and you said that's kind of normal, that there's like these sleep cycles, right? Talk a little bit about the natural sleep cycles.
We naturally have about anywhere from 90 to 3 hour sleep cycles. And I think many people go to bed at 11 and wake up at 2. It's natural to have a lighter mode of sleep in the middle of the night. The issue that happens for most people is that when that lighter mode of sleep happens, they think, I'm awake. And then their thoughts start going and they can't, excuse me, they can't figure out, give me one second. They can't figure out how to transition back into that sleep mode. So they end up having that lighter sleep time being so stressful that it's actually depleting their body instead of figuring out a way to renew. So it's very common to have a light sleep time in the middle.
Now, yeah, because when you wake up in the middle of the night, okay, then you're lying there and your partner is asleep.
And you're so mad.
And you're just like lying there like, okay, twiddle my thumbs. Mm-hmm. And there's usually some things on your mind. And you could start to let your mind engage in those things.
Right.
And then that kind of increases the wakeness.
It does.
And I've experienced this. I can actually feel my partner when he's doing this. Like, because he'll wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. And I can actually feel the energy of his brain. Like, and it's almost like he can go, now thou shalt wake. And like, and then he like takes an in-breath and he starts to speak. And I'm awake like that. Because he wants to say something to me. I'm like, really?
I was sleeping there.
I was dead asleep. And then, thou shalt wake. And I'm awake.
Yeah.
He hasn't even spoken anything before. He just takes the in-breath. And because he's going to speak, I'm so tuned into him that I wake up. So we've had discussions.
What's really interesting is a lot of people think that rest is simple, but it's not always easy because our relationship with our mind and our emotions keep our body revved up. And the thing that you're talking about, which is the mind is wonderful. I'm so glad I have one. And it's needed all the time. It's like you don't need your legs all the time. You sit and you rest your legs. And once your mind gets going, your mind likes to solve problems. It's just like that's what it relishes, fixing problems. So it has to find problems to solve so it can have that feeling of success. And so once it gets going, your mind wants to keep going. And so your relationship to your mind affects your relationship to rest.
That is so interesting that you just said that, because I just realized something that I do that helps put me back to sleep is that I turn the mind inwards. Does that make sense? Like I ask the mind to track something deep inside of me.
Yep.
Like find the thing deep inside in there, and it starts to go in. And then before I know it, I'm like daydreaming and I'm asleep.
It's exactly, you get the nail on the head. It's what you do with your mind. Because if your mind is thinking about the laundry you didn't do or your kid's braces appointment or whatever, you are out in the world. And that's where your mind is, and that's where your body is responding to as if it's there. And when you either put your mind deep inside, you give your mind a problem to solve that is not one that's going to create another problem, your body can go, okay, good, I'm back. I can take over now, because your mind is like, there you go. We're going to take care of you this way, and the body can move into its deep rest and sleep.
Well, we interviewed James Garrett on our summit, and he is a neuroscience guy, right? So he understands all this brain stuff. Yeah. And he was talking about the power of pause and how actually, like, your brain has two modes. It has like the mode where it's executive function, it's figuring things out. And I think that's what you're talking about when it gets busy. And then it has the mode where it's like dreaming, and it's like playing, and it's just sort of free associating, and thoughts are flying around and making connections to other thoughts. And like, so when you go for a walk and you let your mind, go, like that's what it's doing. It's just naturally sort of like, and you can have an aha moment, right? Or in the shower, places like that. You can do that in bed in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
When you turn off this part that needs to like do something.
Mm-hmm. Well, turn it off or give it some legit. It's there, you know, where I'm grateful that I have it, but it's not needed at that moment. So giving it something to do so that the rest of your mind and your body can do its thing instead of being sort of run by the executive function as you're talking about.
So I know that on your journey to resolve this idea of restful sleep. So I want to go a little bit into this restful sleep idea. But I know on that journey to come to that, you probably explored 1,000,001 things.
I did. You know, as I was saying, you know, I've had experience in NLP, hypnosis, visualization, you know, a bunch of different skills, and I use them. Um, right now, well, let me back up a minute. That chronic insomnia is gone. That was actually due to 2 medications I was taking. And so I still, however, get insomnia once in a while. It doesn't bother me anymore because even when I get insomnia, I wake up and I think, I'd rather be asleep. And then it's like, well, what can I do to move into rest? So I know that I have an option aside from praying and hoping that sleep descends. You know, I can sort of create the bridge. And I use a lot of different tools because insomnia is not the same for each person and it's not the same each night. So some nights I move into tools that have to do with my relationship to my body or my relationship to the environment. Certainly my mind usually comes in. And then there's certain times, especially with current events, that I use some tools to create space around emotions. Because even with intense emotions, there is room, depending on your relationship to it, that you can move into rest. And then there's also, you know, getting a sense of resources and connection to nature, a higher sense, and all of those different tools I use at different times. And so I feel confident that I can move into rest.
So when you're working with clients, what are some of the things that you encourage them to explore? Because like you said, it kind of like one of those things, like you've got to have a big toolbox of different things you can like whip out to deal with the insomnia tonight that might be really different than the insomnia tomorrow night or next week. Right. So you've got to cultivate that tool set.
You're exactly right. The very first thing is to understand that chasing sleep is one of the worst things you can do. And in fact, I wrote an ebook about it just because so many people are on the quest for sleep. And it's an interesting contradiction because sleep is about letting go. But when you're chasing sleep, well, it's like doing this. If I gave you a relaxation exercise and said, relax your head, are you relaxed yet? Okay, now relax your arms and relax your abdomen and really now, are you relaxed yet? Come on, are you relaxed? That's the same kind of feeling you get when you're chasing sleep, is you're like, okay, I'm moving to sleep. Am I asleep yet? Wait. So that's the very first piece, is to stop chasing sleep. And then the next one is to really understand the value, the healing and renewing value of deep rest. That not only does it open the door to sleep, but in itself, it renews your mind, it renews your mood, your emotions, your physical health, your immune system, so that you are tapping into something healing. So instead of feeling like it's sleep good or not sleep bad, there is a place in between. And so then when you have that framework, there are, when I work with clients, I try to look at what skills they already have and sort of, and then use those a lot to help develop ways that they can move into sleep. So again, it's what you do with your mind. It's looking at how you can use your body to change your relationship to emotions, to feel like, even though they feel true, you know that there's a space where it's just an emotion. And so then we just work through a bunch of different skills that people can use so that when they practice it, let me back up one more second. When you practice rest, sometimes you just get rest for a second and then you are sort of back into your mind, but each second is useful of rest because those seconds start to turn into moments, and those moments turn into minutes, and those minutes turn into a natural time of deep rest that can move into sleep.
Sounds like meditation.
Meditation is a skill. It's definitely a skill. And I've meditated for a long time, and I really value the power of meditation. And meditation is often about being aware of your mind, including being aware of being sleepy. So there is a place that meditation can be very useful to look at your mind, but there's a lot of other skills you can use that can help you move into rest in a more broad sense.
Do you think that insomnia indicates maybe a lack of a feeling of safety?
Um, Sleep is a pretty risky thing if you think about it. It's like you're letting go, you're turning off, you're just letting the world be for the night. And so if you have a sense of insecurity, it can certainly come up when you're aiming to go to sleep. It's I think that's exactly true for many people. And again, people do go to sleep and people do wake up. So it's finding your path to be able to let go and trust your body and trust the world for however long, 8 hours, 6 hours, however long you sleep.
One thing that came out, I know I mentioned that interview with James Garrett. One of the things that came out of that interview that really gave me pause to think about how I'm using my brain, because I can sit in front of the computer, like my husband's like bringing me dinner, like when I was when I did the Skills Not Pills Summit and started this movement, it was no joke. I mean, there was a lot of things to get done. And so I sometimes literally, I'm not joking, I was actually here and he was like, here's your dinner. Have you stood up today? No, because I'm busy editing all these things and getting it ready. And I love to be outside. I love to be very grounded. But one of the things that came to me in that interview with James was about, like, if you don't give your brain downtime, like if you don't give it that time to like wander, like outside taking a walk, if you don't press pause and kind of like let the brain free associate, then it's kind of like working your computer desktop till the extreme, like putting all these efforts on it and then never running like disk cleanup.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Our brains are amazing. I've written a couple books on the brain. And, when we look at the executive functioning or that one piece, we are putting everything into a small skill set that our brains can do. And we don't tap into our intuition or our right brain or any of the other creative things that our brains are also can do to help us move along. And I think you're right about pausing, because that's what happens when you move into rest and you move into deep sleep, into sleep of any kind. Your brain is not tracking the way it does during the day, which is healing. It's releasing, it's healing. It's a very useful thing to figure out ways to let go.
And I've noticed that on the days where I'm like overworked, like let's say like months working on Skills Not Pills, right, where I had more than one person's worth of work to do. I had to get it all done. And there were days that, I just, and I'm pretty good with my skills about like quickly meditating. Like I can meditate in like 10 minutes and like get some pretty deep, because I can go way down under pretty quickly. Yeah. But that's not enough even, for the whole day thing. And I noticed that on those nights, some of those nights, I really felt like I was working all night too. And I think in reality I was, because my brain was like, okay, all this information needs to go, and this needs to get cleaned up, and this needs to get resorted, and this needs to go over here, and we need to recall that later. So put that, it's like this massive orchestration going on inside my brain to reorganize and declutter, and I'm still working while I'm sleeping.
I think it's great that you are able to spend time to do that and create Skills Not Pills. It's sort of like, again, honoring that sometimes it's not a perfect balance, but knowing the value of creating that balance when that intense time is done, to be able to move into a place where you have your other parts of your brain and the other parts of your life that can come and create an additional healing, a wider level. But again, I honor what you did as well. It's just, it doesn't have to be perfect each night, perfect balance, but to know that that's the intent. The intent of our night is to renew and to heal and to rest.
The overall balance. And of course, certainly that's what I've been doing since it ended. It's like resting, and doing nothing as much as I can. Although my husband would say, you're doing nothing is still doing something. can't help myself. But I was also thinking about the cycles. What did you notice about like season cycles? And because there's like these natural rhythms and natural cycles that go through our lives, and we try to, because we have technology and because we've got electricity and all this, we think we can like just put all that aside, and like, oh, I don't have to pay attention to the fact that it's winter and my body wants to shut down and be quiet. No, I can work like 80 hours a week, like how we do that to ourselves. What did you learn about how the impact that might have on sleep too?
I think you're exactly right. I think the issue about lights and technology is it takes us out of our bodies, it takes us out of nature, it takes us into the brain. It makes our thoughts and our feelings feel even bigger than they usually are. And I think the cycle, though, even happens during the day, where people don't. A lot of people know about melatonin. It's a natural hormone that our bodies produce that helps us rest, and it naturally gets produced when it gets dark. So in the world of not having indoor lights, when dusk happens, we start to wind down, and then we let go, and then our bodies move into rest. And then when the sunrise happens, it's like, okay, we're ready to re-engage. But with lights on all the time and with things that interest us all the time, we are not even putting out, it's not even just the melatonin, we're not accepting the sense of letting go and releasing and renewing. So I think that walking outside any day is really useful in remembering that we are human in the world. We're part of the world, and it's part of us. And then I think also creating your own little dusk at night. Just turning lights off in the rooms that you're not using, turning on lamps, creating a ritual for yourself to go to bed, just to remind yourself that it is time to let go, because we're not so connected to the natural indications of letting go. So we have to create our own.
I love that. That's such a good point. And I do that every day. At the end of the day, I light my candle in my bath, right? I go in my bath, I put my bubble bath, and then I have my candle.
Yeah.
And I turn off the lights.
And you did that, I bet, even when you were working really hard on the computer. Did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got my rituals.
Yep.
And I do my prayer with candlelight, and I look at the candlelight and I pray, and so it kind of like evokes, I feel like it evokes this ancient part of us that is in our DNA remembrance of, oh, this is the time that we get ready to go to bed. It's because there's a candle now. And so that means bed. Because how many hundreds, thousands of years has there been like fire as the sign that it's time to go to bed?
Yeah, I think that's a great one. And you talk about it being ancient, and I think it's ancient, and I think it's also very present. I don't think we're going back. I think we're going, like you said, we're going into who we really are as people in the world. It's like we're not people.
We're reconnecting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and that's what Paleo is about too, because that's the other part that came out. I find it interesting which parts are getting woven into this movement. As I move it along, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. So this is because I bring in ancient traditions into the modern. Right. Then there's this idea of paleo, which is eating like our ancestors and bringing that into the modern, eating things without labels. And now there's like this idea with you of like, the cycles and returning to who you are and be outside and recreate that for yourself. This idea you just expressed. And I really love that. It's so interesting that we are moving into the future, but in order to do that, we have to take a couple steps backwards. Like, okay, this stuff over here, we need that with us. We can't go without that.
Yeah. I think the colonialism and our culture has created a sense that, the tools and the industry is really the way to go. And, again, we are of this earth. And so grounding ourselves now and grounding ourselves in the history of other people who have done it is really important in terms of being the most meaningful lives that we can live.
So what's the procedure when you work with clients? How do you help them start to cultivate that set of tools that is going to work for them?
Well, usually I can start with a free consultation where we do an assessment of people's insomnia and get a sense of where they are and how they want to move forward. And then what I do is I have a 6-session basic package that I work with people to help them look at the value of rest and their relationship to sleep. And then we go through the obstacles that I was mentioning before, the relationship to environment, the body, the mind, emotions, and a bigger picture. And each time we talk, we go deeper and deeper into the value of rest. And people's skills improve in terms of practice, and also we get to look at what internal obstacles people might have. I worked with a client who believed in the value of rest, but his mind, when he went to bed at night, was saying, rest won't do it. I have to sleep. I have to sleep. So we had to work on that sense of anxiety for him in particular, so that he could move into the skills that he was developing. So again, it's individual, because everybody comes with their own skills and their own internal path to get to a place where they can trust that no matter what happens, they can move into rest. And it changes so many people's not only nights but days. I worked with a woman who hadn't written for a year, and after I started working with her, she had the energy to begin to write again. And people will be able to drive because they were afraid that they were going to sort of zone out during the day, and they knew that they had enough rest, that they had the attention to do what they wanted to do.
I definitely learned the value of rest when I had my children.
In what way?
Because they get up in the middle of the night when they're babies, and you don't get like true sleep, like 8 hours conked out.
Right.
I used to get that, so I still get it again now. But the kids, when I had the kids, there was this period of time, like, I don't know, 10 years where that didn't happen, and especially right the first year that each of them was born, it was like this, like they would wake me up in the middle of the night. And even as they were 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, they would like maybe get scared and come knock on the door, and then they'd need something, or they peed the bed, or, whatever it was. And there's this, this interruption to my sleep. And I wish I had met you back then, because I was very angry about that interruption to my sleep. I did not like that.
No.
And hostility is not a good way to go to sleep.
No, it doesn't usually work for me either. I think you're exactly right. It's like once you get angry, a lot of people are not anxious until they have insomnia. And then they get so frustrated and angry that they have insomnia that keeps them awake. So you're exactly right.
Because they're looking for the problem too. And what if it's not a problem? What if it's just, what if you're processing, who knows? I think outside the box, people. So what if you're processing stuff on your soul level, and it just, the best time to process it is in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. And that's just the time, 3, 4, 5 a.m. right up leading up to sunset, or sunrise, like that might just be your time. Okay. Take a nap during the day, or rest, or meditate more.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that also what happens is that sometimes we feel like we want to know what our soul is doing in processing. So we kind of keep our minds awake trying to figure out what our soul is doing. But you can do that processing while you allow yourself to move into deep rest. So you can also renew, not have to keep tabs on what happens, and trust that whatever information is there that's processing will emerge at the time it needs to emerge. So there is that sense of just, again, trusting your own ability to get stuff done and allow your body to renew at the same time.
That's awesome. Well, wonderful. Well, this has been really informational. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience that, just common things that people say, common frustrations that we haven't already addressed? Anything else that's coming to mind?
Common things, I think there's an issue a lot about people and medications. A lot of medications, especially Benadryl and other similar medications, actually cause dementia. And for some people who are sensitive, they even feel it the next day. And Benadryl is also in Tylenol PM and those kinds of things. But people feel boxed into a corner if they don't know that they can sleep. They sometimes feel like they can't live without medications. And there are alternatives. I think medications are useful once in a while. And then I've also done some work on helping people rest when they're struggling with current events, because I know that the news can create a lot of tension and hard to let go. So I work with that as well.
Well, that could explain why I sleep really well, because I don't watch any of that.
It's a good thing to figure out how you're going to get your information, because a lot of the information that's out there is there to rile you up.
It is there to rile you up.
Yeah. And a lot of people are there to rile you up as well. So, it's a double whammy lately.
It is. And so, you know, I figure there's lots of good non-confrontational ways of finding out information
Hmm. Yep.
that aren't fake news,
Yeah. Or
according to
news,
the White House.
or news that's been hyped up so that you keep watching. I know.
Yeah, so that you'll get all upset and get caught in a fear triangle, you know, that fear, fight or flight.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, fight or flight. Well, good. So I thank you so much for this interview. Now you're giving our audience a free gift.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's 7 reasons to stop chasing sleep, to stop trying sleep. And so it goes through many of the reasons that people don't even think about, and the value of being able to move into a different mode when you have insomnia. So that's a free ebook. And then there's also free consultations if people are interested in that as well.
And there is a link to that free ebook in the description for this live video. It's at restfulinsomnia.com. Actually, you can claim it there. And then that's also Sondra's website. So that's where you can also, if you want to book one of those free consultations, you can do that there and see if this would be a good fit for you to resolve some of your insomnia challenges and work towards a solution that maybe is a good solution for your puzzle that you're trying to solve for yourself.
I love helping people come back to themselves, because so many people have lives that are wasted from insomnia. And it's just really a gift to be able to work with people. I feel blessed that I have the skills that I can share. And I just really enjoy watching people transform their nights and their days.
And, you know, I just have one more thing I want to say about this, which is that, you know, this movement, Skills Not Pills, is really about finding the right solution for you, you know. And so if that temporarily includes, or even long term, you know, if it includes medication, that's really your choice, and you're empowered to make that decision.
Absolutely.
And so in order to let that really work effectively for you, you need to not have guilt or shame about that. You need to just allow it to be what it is. And, you know, it's just part of the puzzle piece that you're putting into your puzzle. And then Sondra and other experts can fill in some of the other puzzle pieces. So, but in order for anything to work for you, you can't have that icky guilt and shame in the way of it working for you.
I don't think so. I think there's a reason people feel like they need to take pills, and I value that. I think that it's also useful to have other options, so you can make some choices about what you do.
Absolutely. So wonderful. That's so great. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with us. Hopefully we'll be seeing more of you on Skills Not Pills movement. And for anybody out there, if you have more questions, feel free to enter them in the group. I think Sondra joined the group. So our Facebook group for Skills Not Pills movement. Feel free to put some questions in there. I shared the live video in there, so I'm sure she'll be checking that and answering your questions. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Bye, everybody. Have a great one.